Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Best Kept Secrets in Healthcare show. The show where we share secrets with you that you're not going to hear from mainstream media, from your doctors, probably just about anywhere. So people ask us recently, because this is like our 5th or 6th episode, why are we doing this show? Well, today's the perfect example of why we're doing this show. See, medicine is the study of what causes a man to die, or a study of disease. For the last 24 years, I've been studying what causes a man to live, and health and wellness. And so during this time, we have been dealing with patients, 20,000 some odd patients that have come in our office, and I learn from each one of them. I'm studying what's going on in their lives so I can help other people at the same time. And so today, we're talking about the truth about cholesterol and statin drugs. And we brought in a special guest, somebody who's actually, unfortunately, has lived it, and because he's definitely a specialist, not by choice, but because he had to be. So I'd like to welcome Scott Richardson. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, Dr. Hartman is my associate here in the office. So first thing, Scott, I think the best beginning would be to start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about how your life changed, and kind of where things were before, and kind of what got you to where you are now.
Sure. Well, like most folks, my journey started with a routine doctor's visit, and I was about 45 years old at the time, and mistakenly, I look back and I fit the criteria. I guess my doctor told me that it was probably a higher risk, and I needed to be on some kind of a low dose, medium dose of statin, atorvastatin. Like most folks, he's wearing the white coat and the stethoscope around his neck, so I figured that's the right thing to do. If I don't make all the best choices diet-wise, exercise-wise, the statin would help offset any of those shortcomings. I consider myself a pretty average middle-aged male. Exercise, try to get to the gym a couple times a week. Maybe like anybody else, should get there a little bit more. Don't always make the best choices on the diet, but certainly not always making the worst choices. So
Right.
I believe the statin would be something that would help offset and lower that risk of heart disease and any other issues I might have. In a follow-up appointment a few years later, the recommendation, the dosage recommendation had increased, and when I asked, why would we increase my dosage if what I was on right now, I seem to be fine, my numbers seem to be stable.
So you're taking it for how long?
About 3 years.
And then after 3 years of being on the same dose, now all of a sudden you go in, and now what, had your cholesterol levels gone up any?
They actually, at the time when the increased recommendation was made, there was not even a blood test done.
Oh, he just decided, well, the latest study says you need,
Yeah.
or the latest
industry recommendation.
Oh, okay. All right.
Industry recommendation was to take my dosage from 40 milligrams to 80 milligrams.
Wow, doubled. Even though your cholesterol, they had no proof your cholesterol changed.
No,
Okay.
no, none at all.
Okay.
And but again, mistakenly on me. Hey,
Yeah.
he's a doctor.
He's the guy in the long white coat, right?
They know what they're doing,
Right.
and I went and got the prescription filled, and probably that next week started the higher dosage.
Okay.
And it was right around that same time of 2015, the fourth quarter, October, November is when I started the prescription. Early part of that next year, 2016, is when I as I piece it back, started to notice some significant changes in my life, muscle weakness. Significant muscle weakness.
Right.
It was attributed to maybe an issue in my back. But long story short, after treating a back issue for about a year and a half, finally started doing some heavy research on my own. Kind of went down that rabbit hole online, and realized that this had nothing to do with my back. Although there were many other doctors that said I needed back surgery.
Wow.
Fortunately, I didn't go down that route.
No doubt.
But long story short, after some blood tests and a muscle biopsy, it was determined that the statins were triggering what was called statin-induced myopathy.
Wow. So how long had you started taking the updated, the double dose or the new prescription, right? How long before you started to notice symptoms after that?
As I look back, it was almost immediate.
Almost immediate.
You know, within 30 to 60 days.
Wow.
And you know, if I can implore people to do one thing, if you start taking any prescription, you know, I wish I had kept a journal, even on the low dose of the statin. As I look back, you know, I think of like, you know, mental awareness, you know, less stamina, different things that were going on that, you know, I just mistakenly attributed to getting older.
Yeah, right.
You know, oh, that pain in my knee.
Sure.
You know, the difficulty, the shortness of breath walking upstairs. You know, as I look back, you know.
So how long did it take to where, but when I saw you, when I first met you, I mean, you barely walk, barely getting up from a chair.
Absolutely.
And how long after the prescription was that?
After I stopped taking the...
Okay, so after you started to notice the symptoms, it was how long before before I first met you?
Oh, it was probably about a year.
So, so about a year. But when you came to me, was that pretty much about the bottom, like the worst?
It was just about rock bottom.
Yeah.
If I were to you know, fall walking in the street, there's no way I would have been able to get up.
Yeah. So when I first met Scott, he first came in to see us, and he told me what had happened, and I was like, wow, right? So, yeah, I mean, I had to help him just to sit up from the chair, and then, you know, in our office to get adjusted, to get down on the table. And the first time I didn't know if we were going to be able to get him up.
I think we were calling Dr. Hartman at the one time, and
it was like hard to believe.
I finally manipulated my way over to a table and
worked your way up. Hey, I will have to say now, I mean, just today, this morning he came in, he got adjusted. When he got off the table, like a 15-year-old, is amazing.
Yeah.
But so when you went back to your doctor, did you go back and they basically admitted that, oh, okay, well, you know, this is a reaction to statin drugs?
Well, none of the doctors, the primary or you know, that prescribed it, ever fully admitted it. I think the term they used is I was one of the unlucky ones.
Right.
My follow-up that frustrated me beyond means. That,
of course,
you know, and I think the term was used a couple different times. You know, you're just unlucky. You're a small percentage, and
right.
I think I even said, well, look, if you do the research on it, it's not a small percentage as you believe.
Right.
You know, 15 to 20% are going to have some kind of side effect.
15 to 20%. So that'd be like
industry studies show that by the year 2020, there'll be worldwide approximately 1 billion people taking a statin.
So 1 billion people. So, and you know, so the thing that most people don't realize, and I don't want to get ahead of it because I want to make sure we get through your story, is that the cholesterol industry, the statin industry, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to cholesterol and its relationship to heart attack and cardiac disease, is there's never been a fully documented study that has proven without a doubt that there's a relationship. As a matter of fact, there's actually studies that show people with higher cholesterol live longer. And on the reverse of that, there's never been a study that's actually a fully completed study that has showed that taking statin drugs reduces the risk of heart attack. Did you look into this? I mean, because I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and the one study, and I guess, you know, the studies, you've got to really research the studies to find out who's funding these studies.
That's right, exactly. That's the biggest problem with
big pharma, or if it's a truly independent study. Look, I was amazed that there was even a blood test to verify statin-induced myopathy. I figured, you know, with all the lobbyists and everything, they would quash any of those.
Good point.
Those blood tests, but you know, fortunately, I did find a doctor that you know, believed that this was possible. But to back to your point, though, the research I've done, and I think the most independent study I could somewhat verify would be that an individual not taking a statin versus an individual on a statin would have about a less than 1% possibility of some kind of heart event in their lifetime without taking a statin. And you think about 1%, if I round up to 1% benefit
Right.
of a statin versus 10 to 15% that are going to have some kind of side effect.
Right.
And, through some of the focus groups I've gotten involved in, I feel like I'm truly one of the lucky ones.
Really?
There's people that have lifelong, symptoms or side effects that they're just convinced they're just never going to get better. People in wheelchairs, walkers,
Yeah.
can't walk upstairs.
Well,
things
when I
like
first
that.
met you, I mean, there was definitely a sense of fear. I mean,
Sure.
but I mean, within a year, your whole life changed. I mean, you and I are close to the same age. I mean, you're active. You were
Right.
still real involved. I know your kids play baseball, and you're always out there.
Yeah.
And just the mere fact that all of a sudden now you may not be able to walk at your age. I mean, but the thing is it's just because of for one, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Absolutely.
And, they're going to bury, not literally, but bury the news of the 10 to 15%. 10 to 15% is a lot. I mean, if you knew that you had a 1% chance the drug was going to help you, but a 10 to 15% chance that it was going to hurt you, its odds don't balance out too good.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's crazy.
Lipitor is the single highest grossing drug in the history of mankind.
The history of mankind. So that-
And obviously there's generics that have followed suit, and
Right.
and don't mistake that. I've heard people say, well, this statin is a the Cadillac of statins. I take Crestor. I didn't take Lipitor.
Right.
Some of the focus groups I've been involved in, they don't distinguish between the drugs.
Yeah.
They've all created some side effects.
Absolutely. Dr. Hartman, didn't you, we were talking about some side effects earlier. Some of them were pretty scary.
Yeah, no, we have the simple ones like, headaches, dizziness, nausea. Ironically enough, somehow statin drugs can give you constipation, but at the same time there's a side effect of having diarrhea. So it can give
Sure.
you one of the ways how we react to it, right?
Yeah.
But then it goes into more serious side effects. It talks about the myositis, right? That's the inflammation of the muscles, similar to what you had, but you had more of the myopathy there, right? Radiating down in the muscles. It can even get to the point of memory loss, memory confusion. One of the scariest things that I saw, and Scott, maybe you can add to this, is it can actually increase blood sugar levels, leading to type 2 diabetes. So, if your cholesterol is off, we'll take this. So maybe we can be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Weren't we talking about before this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually one of the, as we talked about Big Pharma and the money backing these drug companies, any kind of, it seems like they're almost immune to any kind of civil liability. But I have seen that there is one case that I think is progressing, and it happens to be women with type 2 diabetes. Once you see law firms and they see some blood in the water, there's got to be some kind of legitimacy to the lawsuit, or they wouldn't be pursuing it.
Absolutely.
In my case, I've got a lot of friends that are in the legal field, and unfortunately, they've just said, look, it's almost like you knew the risk going in, and you took the risk, and unfortunately, you're not going to beat the big drug companies.
Wow. Right. Well, they got unlimited resources. I mean,
Absolutely.
making billions and billions of dollars. I went back and actually did a little research on this, because I've seen several articles that have shown that people are healthier with higher cholesterol. And during my research, I found, and supposedly in 1953, there was actually a study done. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Ansel Keys was his name. And what he did was he did a study over 22 countries. And the idea was if high cholesterol created higher amounts of heart disease and heart attacks. And what they actually found was the guy went into it, and he actually was funded by people that wanted him to come up with a certain finding. So
Sure.
the 22-country study actually became the 7-country study. The funny thing is he took out the 15 countries that didn't follow into the criteria he was looking for. So at the end of it, it was called the 7-country study, and at the end of it, he was able to find 7 countries that supposedly a higher cholesterol, people, those countries that had high cholesterol and had high heart disease, as though the other 15, they didn't fit into the criteria, so they cut them out. So that quite literally, when that study came out, that was what started the whole idea that cholesterol was bad. Now, cholesterol is not bad. That's the first thing you know. Cholesterol is produced in the liver. no cholesterol, you would not survive very long because it's necessary for your immune function. It's necessary for your primary hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. All the parents are cholesterol. And then the brain has to have cholesterol in order to function at all. So cholesterol is good. So there's this whole study, and didn't the number used to be 250?
And that's the other thing. You've got a government number, there's independent. There's so many different numbers out there. It's hard to know what to believe anymore.
Well, because I read somewhere that the number used to be, the cholesterol number used to be 250. Anything above 250, you need a medication, and then they dropped it down to 200. And so now, if it's above 200, you need a medication. And I heard that they were actually lobbying it to try to get it down to 180. I mean, think about it. I mean, there's a whole group of people there they can make more money off of.
Absolutely.
That probably are between 180 and 200. It's really a sad situation. It's not funny, but at the same time, it's ridiculous.
And I think when I had a follow-up exam and had my numbers checked again, my number was 1 point. This is when I was questioning after they doubled my dosage. I was 1 point above the range of what they thought would be normal, and it was almost like, we would have increased your dosage anyway. Kind of an after the fact prognosis. Yeah, I said, so 1 point you would have doubled my dosage, and
right.
I just started to obviously lose more faith. And
see, I've never really trusted the idea that there's a cookie cutter, a box that everybody's supposed to fit in, right? I mean,
Sure.
Everybody's different. There's some people that I think genetically have higher cholesterol levels because they need it, just like there genetically people have higher heart rates, right? Because they need it. And then there are some people that I think genetically have lower ones. So I just to say that, but it's a way for them to put everybody into a box and they can make money off of it. It's sad, but it's true.
Yep. Coincidentally, my blood pressure tends to always run on the higher side.
Yeah.
Yet, no doctor has ever pushed a high blood pressure medication on me, and I just sit back and I think, well, is there just not enough profit in that?
Right.
Why haven't they pushed a blood pressure medicine on me?
It's a good question.
And that's been consistent most of my life.
Right. Well, I think, most people in the long run are going to be healthier with less toxins in their system, especially when you think about what the potential side effects are from statin drugs, and that's just one of the many drugs. Sure. Anyway, this is it's a scary situation, and most people, you're just so used to, you go to your doctor knows what's best for you, and he writes your prescription, you go home and take it. And then, then when something bad goes wrong, like with Scott here, you're not going to hear about it on the news, you're not going to hear about it on TV, you're not going to hear about it probably anywhere, even the 15 to 20% that are reacting to this. So all you hear about are the good things, because 80% of all media is controlled by the same people that are selling the drugs, which is what most people don't realize.
Sure.
I mean, I actually, and we've been involved in media now for some time, and I've actually talked to producers of TV, newspapers, even nationally, about doing stories on certain things, and they would get excited about doing the story, and then all of a sudden they'd come back to me and they just pull the plug and they say, sorry, we can't run it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't run it? You were so excited. This was like the latest, the newest, greatest thing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, but my executive producer said no way. And I said, why is it? And he said, well, Dr. Drury, you probably know why. And I said, does it have something to do with who pays your bills? And he said, exactly.
Yeah, follow the money.
Exactly, right? It's sad, but that's another reason why we did this show, is because this kind of stuff you're not going to read in the local newspaper. You're not going to find it, on 60 Minutes, 2020. Hopefully, if you got something out of this show, hopefully you'll share it with other people. I want to give you have anything else you would like to add to this, Scott, for people that are watching at home?
No, I guess bottom line is with your cholesterol, it's nothing that can't be controlled with diet and exercise and healing from within.
Great point.
And the irony of it is I was taking the cholesterol medicine, and it prohibited me from exercising.
Extra, yeah.
And with then comes the psychological side effects. I didn't slip into that dark depression spot, but
that's good.
Again, with the experience of some of the people I've come across, many have. So
well, and I'm glad you added that, because what can you do to improve your cholesterol if you do not go the statin route? Well, exercise obviously is huge. And believe it or not, there's been a stigma about fats, but actually good fats, like pasteurized butter, grass-fed beef, good eggs, right? the good butters, avocados, and the good oils, right? Those things actually, although it's a fat, it actually reduces your cholesterol. Okay, getting plenty of rest to make sure you do, avoiding stresses, right, which is not easy, but physical, chemical, emotional stresses on the body causes the body to tense up and produce more cholesterol. Anything else I missed?
No, I think you nailed it.
The only thing I could think of from the conversation Scott said earlier is, you're one of the unlucky ones. You're one of the unlucky ones. And Dr. Drury's been doing this for a very long time. I've been doing this for a short time. But somehow I'm still attracting the unlucky ones. I have a similar patient, not to take away from your story, Scott, but a gentleman came in. He was doing great with care, and he came in and he couldn't move his neck again like when he started. Making our corrections, starting to clear out, doing well, and he kept coming back. Still felt the same. Now what's crazy is as he was driving home, he was listening to the public radio, and he heard something about statins, and just recently to that, 3 weeks ago, he had doubled his dose, and he would come in and his neck actually was so stiff, and one of the side effects was talking about muscle stiffening, right? That increased inflammation there. So once he got off that, his care and health skyrocketed, and it's just so crazy. That's why we have to get this information out. And how many more unlucky people are we going to have to see and take care of before we realize that something caused this to happen? So. Right. Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had a lot of patients come in with the same thing, different aches and pains. They go back to the medical doctor, they wind up coming off the statin drugs, and all of a sudden those aches and pains go away. So if you're having some of those, now we're not medical doctors, we're not here to tell you take statins, don't take statins, but what we are here to tell you is become an educated consumer, right? I mean, research this stuff. The information's out there. We're in the information age. You can go and Google any drug out there, and I'm sure that you can find stories like similar to Scott's from other people. But talk to your medical doctor about the medications that you're taking, and make sure that this is what you need. Okay? I mean, we don't know you, but you need to, know yourself, and so you need to go and talk to somebody, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Scott, I appreciate you being here, and I hope that this episode really gets to the heart of the matter with the cholesterol and the statin drugs. I hope you learned something. Please share this information with other people. You can always go to our YouTube site and get these on a regular basis. Go to the Upper Cervical Spine Center on YouTube and subscribe, and we're going to create a new show like this every day, because our objective is to teach you more about you and your body and how you can improve it. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.